most real estate agents are asking what AI they should use. And trust me, this is a good question. It's a fair question. But the reality is that it's probably not the first question you should ask. It is what we're going to go into during this, but I want you to make sure you're thinking, where's my business leaking right now? Or, where do I need to do better follow-up? Or what's the right opportunity for me to get back more time? Because, depending on what tool you use, it's not going to fix the systems that you have in place. It's going to amplify what you're already doing. So the question is, how do I use AI? What tools do I use? And that's what I'm going to go through and recommend for you. I'm going to show you kind of what I've been using, where it's going, and what I think that you can do in all of that aspect. And then on top of that, we need to think, hey, where are our systems that we need to improve to get to that next level? And how can then we use AI and different tools like that to help us get there? By the way, it's right now mid-2026. And the reality is, the tools that I recommend are going to change dramatically and quickly. So the tool side is going to be there, but what I want you to think of is the concept and where are you at on working on that. Because I will go into direct tools during this, and I want you to make sure that you're understanding the direction of where we're going and kind of what's next. So a little bit about where I've been at, right? So a lot of you have been following me. You've heard me talk about one of my first assistants, Ava. Now I have right now Harold, and how I've gone through the process of building it. Harold is a pretty awesome system. It's built on Hermes. I use a whole bunch of the other different tools and LLMs as brain and muscles and those kind of things. But the reality is, he's kind of built there for me in a lot of different ways. And I'm probably a lot like you, and I've started, of course, my journey using AI like a chat, right? Like even lower, a Google search, a spot that you can kind of ask your question and kind of go from there, where then there's levels to kind of where you can take this. And that's kind of what I want to go into, because a lot of the questions that I have that agents ask me all the time are, hey, what AI tools should I use? What should I pay for? I do have my thought on that. I think you should pay like monthly, right? Do a monthly subscription, not yearly, because the reality is something else might beat it in the next 10 minutes. That's how fast it feels like sometimes this AI game is going, right? I have people say, is one LLM enough? Like, should I just be using ChatGPT, right? Or should I just use Claude, right? Whatever one, and I would say no, I don't think one is enough. Then it's, then the question is, okay, well then what one should I use? Or should I be using different things on top of that? And that's kind of what we're going to go into a little bit. The big thing is, I don't know you exactly, so you're going to have to kind of pick and choose from what we're going into and what can actually help you. Because that's really the goal, is I want this where it can actually help you to sell more real estate, and honestly, maybe even more important, depending on where you're at, to get more of your time back, right? Be more in control of what you're doing. So, there's a lot that we can go into. There's a lot of things that we can have AI do for your business, right? We can have it capture ideas and conversations. We can have it where it can organize different comments and different things that are going on. We can have it even follow up with leads. And that's actually getting pretty cool. So you can actually get there, right? You can have it create different content for you for your social media. You can have it prepare for meetings, which is one of my favorite, or even the brief, like after a meeting is one of my favorite, right? You can have it also where you can use it to help you become more searchable on AI, right? And that's kind of where, all of these come into place. And the hard thing is most of the agents I'm talking with are kind of collecting AI tools to be able to see, what can they do. And the big thing is, adding more software is not going to get it where you're fixing everything else. You want to get it where you're kind of being able to build that, to get more follow-up, to get more consistency, to be able to build your life and your business in a way that you can get the results that you want. So kind of going through this, I said there's layers, right? If you're a lot like me, you did start out where you used your ChatGPT or whatever one that you jumped into, and you started it out as a Google search. The first layer, though, is I would say just above that. So if we're thinking there's really 3 layers of kind of where you're wanting to move through and work with your AI. The first layer is a pretty big one, and it is the chat functionality. This is going to be very much like your meeting room, a spot where you're meeting with your top minds. You're getting it where you're figuring out how can I, best help someone? How can I draft this? Oh, can you role play with me and use the voice, right? Having it where you're turning something messy into something organized. Having it where you're kind of having that meeting and preparing for different things. Phenomenal place, so many use cases, and each LLM are going to be different and better in different ways. So how do you use them, compare them, kind of go through that? Could be that one spot that might even elevate yourself of saying, hey, great, I'm going to see what ChatGPT says, I'm going to see what Claude says, and I'm also going to see what Gemini says and compare them, right? How can you have it be where that functionality of that chat is that layer? The next layer is going to be just kind of that next spot. And that's really where the shift and this change comes, saying of, hey, I can now use this for those different things that are important. And it's very reactive though, because I have to be the one who goes in and does something with it, to level 2, which level 2 is where you get to the next fun aspect with AI. And this is the more of your collaborator. This is going to be where your AI becomes somebody who can work with you and collaborate with you. And this is going to be where, okay, if you're using Claude, you're going to use more of a Codex. No, you're going to use, if it's Claude, it's Cowork. If it's ChatGPT, it's Codex. Both of those will give you more of that ability to collaborate and work on things. So it will be able to see your screen. It will be able to fill things out for you and with you. It's really cool. You can have it be where it starts working on something, or you need to fill out something, and you can then give it what it needs. I just recently did a loan doc for one of my private notes that I had out, right? So in real estate, I had one out, and it was awesome to give it the loan doc and have it go through, read the loan doc, and fill out the page that needed to be filled out with the proper information from how many days and everything like that. Pretty cool. And there's so many functionalities where you can now work with it, right? You can say, hey, great, I'm now working with this AI to get to the next level. And it's not as much of just a meeting where you're going back and forth on information, but you're now having it actually do some things for you and with you on your computer. So that's the next level. So you have, right, that first one, more of a chat functionality and meetings, kind of what that looks like. The next level is collaboration. And that's where you can then use and have the AI do things with you and for you in a lot of different ways. And there's so many cool functionalities with this. I absolutely love it, right? It's a partner that you can work on, right? Partner you can work on. No, don't go work on your partners. This is a partner you can work with on your projects to make sure that you're doing that right thing and getting things moving in the way that you want. And there's so many different functionalities in here. You can have it be where you can even have it like look at your calendar and do certain things from it. You can have it where it starts to review your emails. Ooh, one of my favorite ones is I went through and I had in my Google Drive, it got full. Surprising, right? You take a lot of videos, you take a lot of things, and it gets full because you never go through and delete it. I had it go through and scrub and organize my Google Drive for me, and then tell me what ones that I should go through and delete. And it made the list. I looked at them and did everything, and it was fun because I was able to delete so much that was old. I, of course, was like, all right, anything past 7 years was an easy mark, and then kind of went through there. But it was nice because it did it for me, right? Very random little piece, but there's so many different functionality pieces that you can do to work alongside with your AI. And that's where you just need to think, what are those things that I do that if I had, an intern, honestly, a really smart intern, right, who could go through and do something for me in that way. And that's where you need to start playing with that and how to utilize it. And that's kind of that next spot. So that's level number 2. Level number 3 is where it gets really fun and you get to this next aspect of more of a agentic AI, and I like to call that the coordinator. And this is where it does things for you. It can start to anticipate your needs. It can start doing things in that way. And I don't want to overpromise, but the crazy thing is there's so many things that it can do and it can start doing for you, as long as you can know the system that you want it done, like to do it, and ask also, how could you do this, right? But this is where, for me, it watches my emails. It helps me go through and categorize things. It goes through and unsubscribes to different things that, it knows that I'm just done with. It can go through and pull up, and it messages me when something needs attention. So if it says, hey, great, this right here is something that needs your attention, then it will send me a message so that I can actually know. It's given me the ability to not look at my email as much, right? We all know that that's a trap, your email, right? It's a spot that if you get into, you get stuck in it, and there's a lot of things that will pull you towards that and that fire that has to be handled, rather than you being able to control kind of what's next. I've loved it. I have it where it then, when I finish an appointment or I get things done, it goes through the notes that I have on it automatically, as long as I have them recorded through something, and it will then draft an email of saying, hey, here's what happened. Here's how we help them. Here was the promises. Here's the things that we can do. And the cool part with that is it's helped me to be able to be that much more better on fulfilling the promises that I want to show and give, and be able to also then take that time as a phenomenal coordinator and assistant in that way. I've been able to have it where it goes through and it reads my calendar and my goals, and then every evening I have it go through and tell me what's going to come up the next day and what gaps I have in my calendar, and maybe what I should be doing that are for my goal that aren't on there. It helps me kind of have that clarity and moving in the right direction on that way. There's so many. This list is like endless. You can do so much with social media. You can have it where it looks at your GEO so that, for searching, right, of other people. If they're wanting to search for you through AI, you can have it go through and tell you how you're showing up, right? And if you're going to be somebody who would be recommended and what you can do. And this is what's been really cool for me, and that's what Harold's been doing. And it's been a process, right? And the tools are very much, you have to build upon and kind of work through these levels. You got to go from chat. Then you got to go to, that's where you're going to be collaborating. And then you're going to go to coordinate. And each of these phases is where you can start giving it, where you can give your AI more and more responsibilities and more trust. Because the big thing, just like if you were going to go hire a real intern, that system that you have needs to be there so you can hand it off as smooth as possible. And if it's not there, the cool thing with AI is it knows so much that you can ask AI if you have an end goal that you're wanting, and it can help pull you there, right? So, starting there is a good place. But that's kind of where you really just got to keep on building upon it, right? Have it so that you can have it go from those 3 layers up with each other, and you can get to that point where you can have it where your AI assistant, your, other teammate who's digital, can help you kind of go through that process. And if you want, I can dive in more of how my system is later. I'm happy to do that. Maybe I'll do that on another video sometime soon. If that's what you want, comment, and I can kind of go through more of how I exactly built all of those. But the thing is, for chat, this is where you're going to use your LLMs. You're going to use ChatGPT. You're going to use Claude. You're going to use Grok. You're going to use Gemini, Perplexity. There's so many, and they all have different flavors of how they work. I would not say that one stands out above the others on that spectrum, but it's how do you use it and what do you want done from that, and then compare and contrast, right? The next layer of having it where you're working, you're collaborating with your AI. That's where, honestly, my 2 favorite are either Codex from ChatGPT or Cowork from Claude. The other ones have good functionality as well. Go look into what you want. But those right there are a great one that work with you on your computer, get things done, and kind of help you get to that next level, right? And then that next level of having it be where it's doing things for you, you can do a pretty good amount of that through Codex or Cowork, or you can go to that next level, which I love, is where you're using to have it where it has all of your memory and things. And I would use Obsidian as like your brain, and have it where you're using that to help train your AI on knowing you and what you do to the next level. We're pretty cool on that one. Go look up, just type in, into YouTube, learning about Obsidian, and you can hook up Obsidian up to Claude or up to Codex, right? Or up to Hermes, right? Depending on what you want to use for that. But that will elevate your AI on doing that much more with you. So that's kind of that whole structure of those 3 C's, right? So very much, how do you kind of continue to move up that? But what I was wanting to kind of go into and make sure, because I promised I would, I wanted to give you a little bit of a list, right? I already told you about what chat tools you should be using and how you should use it for planning, writing, role play, summarizing, explanations. Then you can, of course, have it where, okay, what's maybe the tool that you need for having it, you have meetings or voice capture, right? I personally use Otter. I've also used Notion because Notion has a great transcribing feature where you can then go through and have it where you have those meetings and those notes in a spot that you can then use, right? What's your CRM, right? If you're with KW, you're probably using Command. If you there's a whole bunch of other good ones that you can use to make sure that you're having it where now your AI can get more of a picture of what you're doing. Email, right? Whatever email you're using, you're going to give your AI access so it can get to know you more and understand, how do you write? How do you communicate and respond, right? And a little bit of what's important to you in that way. And then kind of your content proof system. So if you're going to have it be where, all of those different LLMs, depending on what one you're wanting to use, you can then have it help you get content and then double check things for you, right? GEO, ask it. Ask it where you're at, what it sees about you. Have it where you're comparing it with multiple again, right? And then that agentic coordinator layer, like I mentioned, of getting it up to where you're having your full-on assistant. That's where you're going to want to start building it where you have your full memory. That's where it's going to live more and more on your computer. You want it to always be awake, and you're going to want some form of an Obsidian for your brain. You're going to want to have it be where maybe you're using Hermes, which connects to that. That's the one I've been using and loving. Maybe you're using your Cowork or Codex and hooking it up so that it then starts to build upon where you're at. And that's kind of the interesting part with all of this. Those are the different tools, and it's going to be, what are you using, right, to get yourself there. So pick the one, pick the two, start figuring out how you're going to move up those layers and what system or what aspect that you are already doing that would be perfect to have leveraged and given to your AI assistant to help you out. And then how do you get there, right? And that's going to be first thing is ask it. Ask it how to do it. Think of what we've talked about in this video of how do you get there and kind of implement it. And then, because the reality is the winners of you who are using AI will not be the agent who uses the most tools. It's going to be the agent who has the clearest system for the tools to be able to use. So go through, think about what you're wanting to do, what different things, you want to have leveraged out, and then figure out how to get there. And, if you're loving this, if you're all the way to the end, of course, make sure you like and subscribe because we'll be doing more videos. And if you have a comment of something you would want me to showcase, let me know. Would love to hear about it. So, and that's all. Thanks.